probably needs a little bit of a warm. It's actually made out of deer skin and goes a little bit dull. It needs to be warmed up because it's still alive, really, when you think about it. And this drum is called Amergin. And Amergin was a British island a long time ago and was kept off the shore by 9 waves and eventually called a storm and walked Pew Island, naming the land. But that's a definite little collection, so don't worry about it. And if you listen really carefully, you can hear the drum just like do. That'll kind of do it. Okay, folks. So what I usually do to start off is just do a wee bit of drumming, just to change the energy a little bit, and just ask you for a little bit of help, okay? So, when I say I put this moment, you say here. So we put this moment? Here. Remember that later on, okay? A couple of things before we start, just a wee little intro to it, okay? Usually when you hear stories, particularly you watch films, these particularly films that are big blockbusters, you usually find one character in them, don't you? You usually think that character's like me, I want to be like that character. And you watch the film all the way through and that's who you want to be like. Sometimes I don't think that's helpful. Sometimes I pick to look at stories and you look at a story and try and identify with every character in the story. We'll see the story as part of you. Because sometimes you can limit yourself by looking at these things, look at these people, and not find out who you really are. A good story is like looking in a mirror. You'll see every part of yourself in it, if you open your eyes in the right boat. So if you just keep that in mind, and don't try and figure out the story too much. Just let it be a presence. Okay, so wee bit of drumming, so we'll go. We put this moment. Yeah. We put this moment. Yeah. We put this moment. Yeah. Long ago, far away. Maybe not so long ago. Maybe not so far away. Maybe right now. Maybe right here in these woods. Well, unless. And they were a little house mouse. And they lived in a beautiful, well-kept hole. There was a little hill, but the sunlight come through it, that the hole was very high up, and the little house mouse didn't have to go to it too much. Because they liked staying in the house. They liked keeping it nice and tidy, nice and neat, and they could polish it, and they could brush it, and they could put everything in its right place, move it about. So everything was spick and span, and everything was as they wanted it. And they didn't have to go into the dead wide world. They didn't have to face the dirty woods. They didn't have to face the wind. They didn't have to face the rain. They could just stay in their nice, clean mouse hole and look after it. But they shared the house with another mouse. And that mouse was Wild Mouse. The house mouse and Wild Mouse loved each other very, very much. But they were very different. Wild Mouse had to go out and get the food. And House Mouse had been smart and made sure there was a hazelnut tree and a berry bush just outside the hole. But when they went out and galloped the berries and galloped the hazelnuts, sometimes they looked into the distance. And the distance, we saw the trees singing in the wind. Sometimes they saw the shining sea far in the distance. And way, way off, there was a mountain, whose peak was usually surrounded by cloud. But every now and again, they would look into that cloud and see something magical going through the cloud. And they wanted to head for the west. They wanted to go to the sea. but most of all, they wanted to go up the mountain and see what was there. So slowly but surely, they began going towards the woods. And the house mouse didn't like this. What are you doing? Why do you want to do that? Stay here where it's safe. Stay here where our food. Stay here where I can look after things and make sure they're tidy. Make sure they're in the right place, where nothing scary ever happens. Stay here with me. But the wild mouse couldn't help himself. It was in his nature. And slowly but surely, he made his way into the woods and saw all the delights there. He saw all the animals. He saw the birds in the trees. He saw the foxes. He saw the squirrels. And he was utterly entranced. And one night, when the moon was out full, he became too entranced. And the fox snuck up behind him and nearly got him in his teeth. And he was terrified and ran back to the house, shaking. And the house mouse said to him, "Told you so. What were you doing going out there? Stay here with me. It's safe with me. Let's not take any risks. Stay here where I can polish and clean and everything is the right place." So the wild mouse agreed. And they just went outside and just got the food and came back in. They spent a lot of their time just looking at the patch of sky in the hole. But slowly but surely, their eyes came down on all they could do and look at the wall. And they became sadder and sadder and sadder. And House Mouse saw this, and it touched her heart. And one day, Wild Mouse watched House Mouse. And she walked across the floor, and there was a ray of sunlight coming through the mouse hole. And as she walked into the ray of sunlight, she looked up. We felt the sunlight in her face, and she mooned and basked in that sunlight just for a few seconds. And Wild Mouse knew when he saw that there was a little bit of wild in House Mouse's heart turned to me. House Mouse, can you do me a favour? Depends on what that favour is, really, doesn't it? Can you stand in front of the mouse hole for me and close your eyes and trust them? Now, as I say, House Mouse's heart being touched, but she so wanted Wild Mouse to be happy, so she did this wall. So she stood, reflected the hole, and closed her eyes. And Wild Mouse went up behind her and grabbed her around the middle and threw her as high as he possibly could. And just as she reached and she was level with the hole, he shouted, "Open your eyes!" The House Mouse opened her eyes and fell back down, and Wild Mouse caught her beautiful. "What did you do that for? That was terrifying. Anything could have happened. I could have fell and crushed you. You could have failed to catch me. You could have anything." You saw it, didn't you? Saw what? I don't know what you're talking about. You know what I'm talking about. You saw the mountain. Yes, I saw something in the distance. It looked quite pretty. I'm not that fussed about it. You saw the mountain. But that beauty is very you. That mountain will never lose you. I need to ask you a favour so we can be together here. I love days of wild. Every day. Maybe one day you will walk a little further with me into the forest and we can share this. Slowly but surely, we can do this together. Can you agree this to me? House Mouse thought about it. She thought about her safety. More than her safety, she loved Wilkins. So to help him, he did this. Wild Mouse into the woods every day. And slowly but surely over the weeks, took House Mouse by the hand to the edge of the woods, then took up in the woods, and then took remove the tools. And after a long time, they managed to walk through the woods. Then they came to the foot of the answer. And then one day, they ventured up to the top of the mountain. And they saw what was blending through the clouds. and it was a palace. And at that palace, a wedding is taking place, and everybody is coming married. And they asked House Mouse and Wilderness, would you like to be married with us this day? And they did. And there was the best cheese possible at this wedding. There was Roquefort, there was blue cheese, there was cave-edge cheddar. It was amazing. The party went on for 3 days. And the best people were there. I believe there was a young recording artist called Taylor Swift showed up. And she sang songs with the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Pink Floyd were there, but they just have a DJ set. It was the best party ever. And everybody fell in love with each other, even if they'd been married for 40 years.
Fantastic.